What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another week of fantasy football, and the playoffs are well into it now. We've got a lot to cover this week. We'll be covering the consolation games in each league and the playoff games in each league, and then next week we'll be doing our first ever Hall of Fame ceremony, talking about the season in general and maybe inducting a few people from previous seasons before the week after that, when both leagues will be finished, looking at the finals. Let's get straight into it. First up here, we have Anchor versus Ryan in the consolation bracket of the Andy Dalton fan club. As you can see here, Ryan getting his only second win of the season. And Anchor losing, so that she'll drop into, I want to say, the 9th, 10th playoff game. Not 100% sure on that, though. I think that's right. Ryan managed to score 130 points, which is pretty good, but how did he do that exactly? Well, you see, Josh Allen did a little bit better than Jordan Love, although Jordan Love only managed 13 points in a 34-0 win is actually impressive. Jahmyr Gibbs, 30 points. Brees Allen, 1 point compared to 28 and 38, not quite enough. 14 and 0 versus 6 and 6. 11 versus 10. 13 versus 6. 8 versus -1. And then -4 versus 20. That's one of your big difference makers there, the Bills defense versus the Titans defense. And then, of course, what running back makes up basically the rest of the difference. Relatively close overall. Obviously, Anchor is a play-to-win kind of gal. So her being out of the playoffs, I doubt she even looked at her team this week because it's just consolation bracket and obviously so close to Christmas. Could she have won if she'd have played a more updated team? I don't think so. I'm not seeing many points here. She could get 7-point swing for playing the Texans defense, an extra 3 for playing Dicker the kicker. She could have had an extra 12 there. So what's 7, an extra 3, so that's an extra 10, plus 22, still not getting particularly close. Hash won't be paying any attention going forward, but I think his team is largely fit now. I mean, Connor's questionable for next week, but yeah, his team's fit and a pretty decent team. I wouldn't be shocked if he somehow manages to finish in 7th, in the 7th, 8th playoff. So that'd be interesting to see. Let's get on over to the next consolation bracket game. The other consolation bracket game is between Tom and Fraser. As you can see, Fraser eked out a very small victory. Consolation bracket games normally on particularly high scoring affairs because if your team can score that many points, you're probably not in the consolation bracket. And a lot of people aren't really paying attention once this goes wrong. But let's see exactly what happened here. So ironically, it looks like 89 points was actually pretty lucky for Tom because he's had 3 guys ball out and everyone else has done nothing. He's got -5 points, 6, 5, 7, 1, 0. I mean, after everyone other than the 20 plus boys, he's on -4, 2, 6, 13, 14 of his 89. He's got 75 points from his other peeps. Yeah, he rightly kind of got dealt with here. Although, on the other side, it's similar-ish from Fraser, because, yeah, Pat Mahomes got 28 and Superbowl got 37, but other than that, no one really did much. They just did marginally more than Tom. The Chargers defense got him points instead of costing him points. And then Drake London, Tyreek Hill, Kenneth Walker, and Swift just kind of chipped in with little bits, which is really, really interesting. Poor game overall. I don't think there'd have been much to change it. I mean, we could have had an extra 26 from Herbert here instead of 22. Wouldn't have made much difference. Wouldn't have made any difference. Zay Flowers could have come in for an extra 11 points. Addison could have come in for an extra 10 points. Could you bump it? He probably could have won this game. In fact, he definitely could have won this game. Although Fraser could have got even further away by playing Keenan Allen, who had 24 points instead of Drake London. Could have played Frymouth, which would have got him an extra 2. I think perfect lineups, only Fraser wins without doing the maths. But let's get into the games that actually mattered, the semi-final games. And first up was the semi-final games. It was me versus James. We've been battling out all season. In fact, our last game of the regular season, which got me my bye week, was against James, who we managed to beat him. And the story is the same this week. 179.94. 0.06 off of 180, plays 114. Let's see what happened here, because it was closer for a lot longer, but they just kind of got away from him. So up until the Bills game, he was comfortably ahead of me. That's where we overtook him, and it just kept going. So Joe Burrow managed 23 points. Baker Mayfield managed 27.57 on Monday Night Football, which just kind of blew out the lead a little bit. James Cook 34, Bijan Robinson 28. That is, I believe, a season high for Bijan, or close to a season high. Whereas Mixon and Jones, who've been so good for James this year, didn't score and got okay yards. If both of them score, that's an extra 12 points, and he's a lot happier. 126 is a lot better. But they just couldn't find their way into the end zone this week. Brown and St. Brown, again, only just like grazing 30 points in total here, which is kind of rough because like they both got a score, they both got their yards, they just couldn't really do anything more with it. Whereas on the flip side, you got T. Higgins, who was the worst of the four, but Justin Jefferson with his 2 touchdowns and 140 yards, just combining up to outdo that, which was very, very helpful. Hunter Henry with the garbage time touchdown against Buffalo really helped out as well, especially compared to Dalton Kincaid, who was also in that Buffalo Patriots game, didn't get a whole lot of work. Then I think this is the main difference maker, and it was a momentum shift early, was Ford managing 25 points against Cincinnati, scoring the only touchdown. He had 92 receiving yards, 92 rushing yards, 39 receiving yards, and like 60 return yards as well as a score. So very, very handy performance from him. And then Brian Robinson, who's again been brilliant for James all year, 24 rushing yards, 2 fumbles, 17 receiving yards. Didn't get a whole lot of work because he was having a day of dropsies, which didn't help. It was only like with 2 minutes to go in the game, he even managed to get into positive points. Kickers were very even. Bates did outscore Bass by 1 point, but doesn't make much difference. The big difference maker early on was we both had a defense in the Steelers-Ravens game. And I played the Steelers defense because earlier in the year they made 17 points against the Ravens. So I was like, that'll be fine. Not the case this time. That put me at a 19-point deficit that I had to overcome. Let's see what was left on the bed. My only mistake was not playing the Lions defense, which would have netted me an extra 12 points, which would have put me on 190 something. 192. James, however, should have played Goff for an extra 11 points. Smith and Jigba should have played instead of Brian Robinson for an extra 16 points. Bigsby should have played instead of Mixon, in theory. It's rough. Incredibly rough. None of it would have made a difference, though. I scored too many more points. There's no way he could dice his team about to have won this game. I made the right decisions. Cooper Kupp, Jerry Jeudy, Gray, Harrison, didn't play any of them, didn't trust them. Sam Darnold I was debating because of the link up with Justin Jefferson, but he wouldn't have paid as much dividends as Bake Show, although the 2 points wouldn't have been backbreaking. The only big difference here was the Lions defense, but that's fine. I get to decide between the Lions defense and the Steelers defense for the next 2 weeks based on matchups, so I'm not too worried about that. It's a rough one for James. He's had a good season, but he's fallen short right at the end. I will be going to my 3rd Super Bowl in 4 years, so hopefully we can improve that record to 2-1 and not let it fall to 1-2. Let's go have a look at the other semi-final. And here we have the other semi-final, an incredibly close game with only 20 points in it, which in quite a high-scoring affair isn't actually that much. Pash does manage to beat out Dad, which means the 2 teams who were the 1 seed in their group and got the bye week have ended up getting through, which is interesting. But let's see exactly what happened here. Jane Daniels and Saquon Barkley, in that massive game between Washington and Philadelphia, they were the 2 figureheads for their teams, and unfortunately Pash had both of them, and it punished Dad badly. And then on the flip side, Lamar Jackson with one of his lowest scores of the season, I'm willing to bet. Dowd had a pretty low week. Bucky Irvin did pretty well, and Rashad White didn't do that great. So that was a nice swing that would have gone his favour if it wasn't for 40 points apiece from these 2 psychos. Even if they'd got their season average, they'd probably dropped 20 points. Jacoby Myers only managed 4 points. Devontae Adams managed 13. Metcalf only managed 12 points. CeeDee Lamb managed 12. Trey McBride had 2 points. Like, he's beat him basically everywhere other than defense, quarterback, and running back. Unfortunately, it's just not enough. But if you look at the difference, 31, 35 in quarterback, running back 1, and defense plays 27, 100. Well, that's 83, 90. That's 110 points from 3 positions. Compared to, like, Dad's scoring is so much more even. No one's not turned up. The closest to not turning up anyone's got here is Dowd. The Bucks defense was maybe a mistake. You wouldn't have expected them to concede 26 points to Dallas. He could have had more points if he'd played Purdy and Dell and maybe Pollard. No, Pollard wouldn't have been an upgrade. It's rough. Should Thielen have got in? No. His running backs kind of run out of steam at the end of the season here, which kind of sucks. It is what it is. There's not a lot he could do. Again, there's nothing more Pash could do realistically. Extra 4 points at wide receiver. But that's it. I mean, if he decided to play the Cardinals against the Panthers, which wouldn't have been insane because the Panthers had been phenomenal, this game would have literally gone the other way. That would have been a 32-point swing, and Dad's won comfortably. It's a rough one. Dad got to his first semi-final this year, so I know he's happy enough about that. But of course, he will be disappointed that he couldn't take it the whole way. Let's go ahead and jump over to the Gouldy 12 League. So, in the first semi-final, we had George versus Oscar, and unfortunately for Oscar, that late tear where his team seemed to be scoring an insane amount of points every week for fun has been cut short here, as he falls 5 points short of beating George. Let's see exactly what happened, because according to this graph, it looks like George won pretty late. Who's the difference maker? I mean, Mike Evans, maybe? Getting 11 points to push him over the edge, and McLaughlin. So that's 17 points in the last game. And Josh Jacobs was also late as well, which, I mean, he had a really good game, 20 points. Josh Allen, you would have bet on, I mean, what would Josh Allen have needed, assuming no other scores change? Josh Allen would have needed 16 points. Josh Allen, with how well he's been playing these last few weeks against New England, you'd have bet a pretty penny on him managing more than 16 points. So it's kind of unfortunate that that is all that would have been needed. Not 20 points, not 25, just 16 would have won Oscar the game. Mixon kind of let George down, but Josh Jacobs made up for it. Brown and Jones did okay. Not too bad at all. A little bit low, but overall they did okay. Chase and Evans for 33 compared to Flowers and CeeDee Lamb for about 32. Very similar. Sam Laporta made a big difference up on Kincaid. Higgins blew Harrison out of the water. Bass beat McLaughlin. And then the Packers defense versus the Steelers defense, 15-point swing. That's actually the difference maker right there. Even though Josh Allen had a poor game, if you swap the defense, or not even, you just normalise him back down to 10. Give him an 8, take 7 off of him. It's game over. That last touchdown, probably. Yeah, I mean, it's just craziness. That's so close. I love when it can be so distilled down to one position being such a big swing spot. Could they have done better? Ridley, 16.8. I mean, would have technically been better, but not much. It wouldn't have been enough to even swing the category. Whereas, on the other side, could have had an extra 3 points for Pat Mahomes and an extra 14 points for Debo. Well, no, an extra 18 points for Debo. So, yeah. Oscar's got unlucky here for sure with how close the actual game was. Optimum lineups, he would have been decimated, so you can't be too unhappy. So that makes George our first entrant into the Gouldy 12 Super Bowl. Let's go see who the other one is. And there we have it. Mick, the other 10-5 team, the two teams who've won the most this year, win again, unsurprisingly. 140 points beats 123. They both would have beat the opponent in the other game, which kind of sucks for Josh, I've got to be honest. He's managed to go out there and score enough points that would have got him into the final had he been lucky enough to play the other teams. Which is, I mean, it's just the way the cookie crumbles, isn't it? But shout out to Mick for scoring enough points to beat no matter who was put in front of him. Jane Daniels, once again, big catalyst here. Especially when Jalen Hurts only managed 4 points. What a difference in quarterback score for that game. Obviously, Jalen Hurts got hurt pretty early, which would have been a big, big kick in the nuts. And if he hadn't got hurt, this game may have gone the other way. Chuba Hubbard, 32 points, huge. 25 points for Jahmyr Gibbs, really good. Kyron Williams, 19.9. Bucky Irving, 18.2. Cooper Kupp only managed 5 points. Pair that up with Terry McLaurin, who got 17. That's only 22 compared to 34 on the other side. Kittle blows Kelsey out of the water with 18 points. Hill and Wilson kind of negate each other. Gay beats Boswell, and the Dolphins beat the Seahawks. So yeah, the quarterback is the only difference here. There's 30-point difference there. And take him away, take that 30-point difference away, he's only on 112. I mean, what? Jalen Hurts needed to score 24 points, which I imagine is probably not far off what he's been averaging this season. Kind of rough. Cooper Kupp also had a pretty poor game. If he'd have even got up to like 12, you'd have then been like, that was really unfortunate. You only lost by 12 points. Could he have done any better, though? He had no other quarterback, so he had to play him regardless, which was a decision. Schultz didn't outscore Kittle. He played his best lineup. Swift wasn't an upgrade over anyone, was he? No. He did not have another wide receiver who would have been a better option? No. I mean, he's literally played the best lineup he can, and it wasn't enough. You just got a shake mix hand at that point to say congratulations, gone to the final. Let's have a look at the consolation bracket and see how we've got on over there. And here we have my consolation bracket game where I managed to beat Cam handily by 30 odd points. Pretty high score in affair overall. Both of us were in the hunt for the playoffs, so I'm not surprised. The big thing for me was Jonathan Taylor with his 218 yards and 3 rushing touchdowns. Pair that up with Bijan Robinson's 100 yards-ish and 2 scores, and we're in a pretty good spot already. Burrow loses out to Baker just barely. Walker and White can't touch him. Justin Jefferson with a huge game. Puka Nacua did okay. They outscored Collins and Thomas a bit, but not by much. Hunter Henry takes on Komet with ease. London does beat out Johnson. Kicker wins. Defense is tie. The difference maker is absolutely the running backs in this game. We're looking at what? 63 points plays 24. That's a lot to overcome, and it's about the difference here. I don't believe I could have done any better. Oh, I could have. Smith and Jigba could have come in for Quinton Johnson for an extra 20 points. And Tank Dell could have come in for Nico Collins for an extra 8 points, which would have put me, an extra 28 points, 191. On the flip side, Cam could have done better. He could have had an extra 12 points at kicker. He could have had... I thought he had more as well. No, just an extra 12 points at kicker, maybe? Oh, no, he could have had an extra 6 points at flex as well. So an extra 18 points would have got him a lot closer, 149. But it's the consolation bracket. No one really cares other than me because I like to win wherever I can. Let's go and check out who will be playing in the final of the consolation. And our nemesis will be Luke, as he managed to beat Tony out by a measly 7 points. Again, with so many of us playing in this consolation bracket, being very close to the playoffs, seeing most of us outscore, or all of us outscore, all but one team in the playoffs kind of hurts a little bit. But hey, we should have been better when it mattered. What happened here? I mean, they're both pretty close. Is there anyone who really pooped the bed? Only the Texans defense, and they were still on the winning team. So overall, Luke has just outdone him a little bit. Beat him at quarterback, beat him at the running backs, lost out a wide receiver, destroyed him at tight end, won out at flex, and then lost out at kicker and defense. But kicker and defense brings back 18 points to who are we playing here? Tony. So Luke was up a decent way before that. Was there any better we could have done? Did he have enough defense that he chose not to play? No. He did have 45 points worth of running back. So you could have changed that up and seen some nice dividends paid. I think it's fair to say that this was Luke's game to lose. Based on the entire roster. Optimum lineups, Luke wins. Luke wins with current lineups. Ironically, Luke has left more points on the bench, but he also could have benefited most from them points, so it doesn't make too much difference. So there, we'll be playing Luke in the next round for the 5th, 6th playoff, so if we can win that, we'll finish 5th, just outside the playoff spot overall, but overall not a bad season. But there you have it. That is the semi-final consolation bracket week. In the Gooley 12 League, the final is this week coming. In the Andy Dalton Fan Club, it's a 2-week final. So next week, we're going to go back, look at some of the previous seasons and start to build out a Hall of Fame. We'll give some shout-outs to people who've had some special weeks this year. And then the week after that, we'll cover both the finals so that we know who all of our winners are. Thank you very much. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.